Hey there, it's JohnBerry555, and it's been a while since I've done a video on my Extras channel. I'm going to try to do stuff a little more frequently. I'm also going to be using the collaboration function, at least for this video, so that way people who are on my other channels will know about this video. You probably know most of my Jedi Ranger channel, but I also have a channel where I do retro reviews of classic TV shows as well. But this is not what this video is about. Well, it's kind of a review. I'm going to be somewhat reviewing, but mostly ranking Jetlag the game. If you've never heard of it, I'll link the channel in the cards. But in short, it's a channel by the people who are behind Wendover Productions and Half as Interesting. It is a travel game show competition reality show type deal. It is immensely fun to watch. I will be spoiling it, so go watch the actual channels. The actual videos and all that. You can also watch on the streaming service Nebula, but just watch on YouTube. YouTube, it's free, which I really love because I just watch my budget book, so I don't have any streaming services right now. So yeah, and you may be like me in that regards, but yeah, I'll be ranking, I'll be spoiling all that, and sadly, I do not have a hat from any of the places I've ever been, so I'm just gonna wear this Union Pacific 4014 big boy hat because at least it's travel related. And just so you know, in the Jedi fandom, same from Half as Interesting and same from Jedi are all different people. They're not really, but that's a joke, and we all go with it, and we all don't spoil it for each other. This video is partially intended for people who don't know anything about jetlag, so don't know the joke. So now you can be in on the joke. They're all different people, and we talk about them differently, even though they're not, but we do anyhow, and that's why it's fun, because we all know it. Anyhow, I got my notes. Let's actually talk about it. And I've realized I forgot to number them. Well, anyhow, it's easy. There's 16 seasons, 17, 18, because there's a half season and the prequel season, Crime Spree, which is only on Nebulos, and I haven't watched it yet. So that's my honorable mention. But anyhow, let's start at the bottom with season 14, Snake, which was set in South Korea. It was an okay season, but my biggest problem, I think, was more the game design. Was probably one of the most limiting designs. They pretty much stuck mostly to the South Korean rail network, which is often the case anyhow. But what I really mean is they really stuck on the network and rarely went too far from the station. In other seasons that are heavy rail centric, like Tag, they are more likely to just go away a good distance from a rail station because it is convenient. In fact, there are a couple of times, and actually this happened in hide and seek as well, where they just walk from one station to the next because it's quicker than actually getting a connection between them, if there even is a connection between those two stations. But in South Korea, nothing like that. The challenges were all neat based off of, well, actually, the games in Squid Games, which are based off of Korean children's games. So that's neat and all, but except for that, having the challenges be for like a besides having the challenges being based on the country, it's not really based on traveling the country for the challenges. And most of the time, the challenges are a bit better in that regard. So that's why I rank at the bottom. Still enjoyable season. There's still good moments, but it is not the best game design. And it relies a lot more on predictions, and so it's just not great. I have a way on how Snake could be improved, mind you. And my idea would be Snake have two teams snaking at the same time and they can't crash into each other or themselves. That I think would be a way more interesting game design when you have to complete challenges to get coins to continue snaking. I think that would be a much better designed game. But they would need a guest for that. And speaking of guests, my next one does have a guest. So my second least favorite is Season 6 Capture the Flag Japan. Again, for kind of similar reasons. The game was more linear. A later season that they do in Japan, well, it is ranked way higher than it is ranked way higher than Capture the Flag Japan. I thought it was definitely a neat idea how they used the vending machines and an object and one of the things in the vending machines as the flag. I think that was a neat way because I know vending machines are very big in Japan. I also loved some of the games of chicken they played at railway stations to avoid being tagged. Like, there's some good moments in here, but with exception of basically the one scene where basically Sam and Adam ended up in a rural country station. I honestly felt like there was no really exciting things. So I do want to say the pizza towers was really neat. Some of the towers, like there's some neat stuff in here, but it just didn't capture me the way later seasons or other seasons would. And by the way, the guest for this season was Scotty from the YouTube channel Strange Parts. I've never watched it, so I don't know him, and that's probably part of the reason because he's a person like I could definitely tell if you maybe liked his channel already, you would have liked him better. But for me, I had no context for him. And later on, there are guests from channels that I've never watched before being introduced him to Jedi, and I fell in love with them as YouTubers and personalities instantly. But not Scotty. I've never even checked out his channel. In fact, there's one other person on here who I've never checked out her channel, but I don't know why I haven't because I loved her on Jetlag. So say that what you will. So now we're going to move on to my third favorite, and now we're in the top 15. And that is Season 2 Circumnavigation. The guest for this season was Joseph from Real Life Lore, and I have watched his videos before, so I knew who he was. And circumnavigation, it was basically a race to circumnavigate the world. I think it was fun in that, but I think it's self-flawed because one, with the exception of few things, they never got to stay in a location too long. Singapore was probably the place they got to explore the most. They went bungee jumping, ate at a Michelin star restaurant, which was actually more street food, which I think was neat, showing us that not all Michelin star is those fancy French restaurants and all that. So that's neat. And there's some other neat things here. Adam and Ben won the season, of course, but oh, I probably haven't explained. Adam and Ben are got to start basically got introduced to Sam for writing for Wendover and half as interesting for him. And Sam was the narrator of all three channels. And they all three came up with the idea of Jetlag the game together based off of, and it actually got to start as a half as interesting Nebula special known as Crime Speed, which I'll talk about later on in here. But yeah, I just needed that context. And definitely, it's also when you watch from season 1 all the way up to the most recent season, you can definitely tell that in the earlier seasons they played a lot more with Sam as the heel, not so much in later seasons, which made most sense back then because Sam was the boss, and he still technically is because he still owns the company, but they have much more creative input in Jetlag the game, of course, but also because in the early seasons they played on the fact that he was the boss, which came out as a crime spree structure. So they placed Sam more as the heel, using that term for wrestling. Even though I don't watch wrestling, but I think you get what I'm saying. But like I said, Circumnavigation was an okay season, but it just didn't capture me. And it's not, and it's probably a thing that they're not going to start again. But I really do love the races. Some of my favorite seasons are races, not my top favorites, but still. And I think what hurts Circumnavigation is the challenges, except for in Singapore, never really made me feel like I was seeing anything about where they were. So that's, I think, part of the problem there. But let's go on to my fourth least favorite, and that's season 1. Yeah, so season 1 is pretty close to the bottom for me. Season 1, which is with Connect for USA. So they still hadn't quite worked out a lot of the game design, for lack of a better term. There's some great moments there. Adam and Ben lost because their car rental failed, so they couldn't actually get to the last place before Sam and his guest, which happened to be Brian from Real Engineering. And Brian, I've watched Real Engineering's one. He comes up. He's actually the most prolific Jetlag guest, probably because he's probably the one that Sam knows the best. Because all of the early guests were Sam's friends, so that also makes some sense too. But like I said, there's some great moments in there. But I would say later seasons had some better challenges, some better game design. Like, I really love the idea. Get 4 US states in a row, either vertically or horizontally. You have to go to the state capitol building itself to draw and complete it, and to draw the challenge and start it. I thought that was a very neat design. There's some pretty neat stuff, but one is I think they just got down the formula better on later on, and later seasons were just more entertaining. In fact, I'll just say for most of these, I liked all of the seasons. Honestly, the first two are probably the ones I was least interested in from a game, from just the perspective, maybe were the least interesting, the least fun moments. But now all of them have good fun moments I all enjoy in some way. In fact, even my least favorite I still enjoy. It's just something had to be on the bottom of the list. But now let's go to the last of my bottom five, and that's going to be season 3, Tag You're It, which was the first season of Tag. It was a fun season, all that, but I like the other seasons of Tag way better. And you'll understand why when I start talking about them. So great moments in that. I think Tag is a very good game design. It could easily be adapted to other places in the world, not just Europe. But that's why they did Europe, because Tag Euro, it's spelled EUR. You see what they would do. They did it for the pun, and I don't blame them at all. There's some other probably areas that they could have done tag. Like I could see Japan being a good place potentially for tagging, like the Tokyo area potentially. I don't know. But yeah, it is a good game. It's just I like the other tags way better. And so that goes on to what's now going to be. I'm going to start counting up to number one, my 12th favorite, and that's season 11, Tag You're It 3. So in this season, again, this is a non-guest season. Instead of doing it over France, Japan, and the Low Countries, instead of doing it over France, Germany, and the Low Countries like they previously done, and technically it's Switzerland as well, they decided to do it send it over Italy, Austria, Switzerland, Slovenia, and a few others. Like, yeah, I think it was neat seeing that change of pace. They had different training style connections, and it was neat just seeing the different place. It also was very fun at the ending for Sam's winning run because because he didn't get to his win location, but they were in his zone. He just went to the same place that Adam was in for a different game, which we'll talk about later. Okay, it's gonna be hide and seek Switzerland, the pilot season of hide and seek, where Adam hid in a castle. And I just love how Sam made them walk all the way back up that small little castle. And that season relies on a later season, or actually earlier season in terms of production, but later season in terms of my list for some of the full enjoyment, some reference stuff going on. There was also, I think, yeah, it was either this season or Shaken Showdown that had, yeah, it was Shaken Showdown, so we're not going to talk about that till we get there. Okay. So let's go on to my number 11. This is season 4, Battle for America. The guest was again Brian from Real Engineering. So this is another America one where they are claiming states that connect four. But I thought this one had way better game design, better challenges. And there was also more interaction for that better. Even though I think definitely the two teams didn't bump into each other as often. The fact that you could challenge a team for control of a state on the game board, which was the country, I thought was a very neat idea. It was also nice that since they started, because of where they started, they were able to actually make use of what limited public transportation the U.S. has. Mostly Amtrak, but a few other things did pop in there, which I thought was really nice. And then, of course, Ben and Adam's plan at the end to fly to Alaska to win that area bonus, I thought was very clever. And honestly, maybe if Brian and Sam had played their power-up slightly differently, they might have actually been able to prevent Adam and Ben from completing a challenge, or at least completing an easy challenge in Alaska, which ended up pretty easy for them. They did try, but they just didn't have enough power-ups, especially if they wanted to try to claim a few more states to attempt to win themselves. Again, some really good stuff. Like maybe they figured Adam and Ben were going to Alaska, so they maybe didn't need to use that power. But at the same time, that power was useful because then they could properly at the right time do the card swap power up. Too bad Adam and Ben were able to unswap it, and because of using another power up to cross the state border by car, they were unable to swap back. So again, maybe they didn't need that, but timing wise, it was kind of important if they had more power ups overall, which they didn't. But again, there were some great challenges. Some challenges never got completed, like Mills' car, because of just the other team just outplayed them in that moment. But again, there were just some cool, unique stuff. And like how both of them were basically going to the Grand Canyon effectively at the same time to claim Arizona, but Adam and Ben got basically went to the wrong area because of a private place that was using Grand Canyon the name to draw people from the national park. They literally fell for that. I'm surprised that actually did happen. But hey, when you're rushing to try to claim states, you may not always catch everything. But again, some great, great fun moments there. But let's move on then after that to my number 10. So we're now finally in the top 10. And that is Season 7 Tag Your It 2. Same board as Tag Your It, the first one, but I like this one better for one simple reason. The pizza vending machine that they found. I don't know if it was good pizza or not. It was probably just, probably as opposed to satisfactory. I think they described it as like, okay, nothing to write home about, but the novelty of it. That's the whole reason why this season gets so much higher. Don't remember as much about the season as the other two. In fact, or was this the season that they ended up, the runner just started walking just to get as deep into his zone as possible near the end, and it ended up working. And then they ended just all walking back together. That was either this season or the first tag. Again, fun moment, but you can't top the novelty of a pizza vending machine. Just the novelty of it. In France, I believe. I would expect that more out of Japan. But let's go to my number 9 pick, which happens to be Season 9, Hide and Seek Switzerland, the very first Hide and Seek. So this Hide and Seek is different than the later Hide and Seek seasons, where the hider gets coins from being asked questions, and he uses coins to buy dice rolls to gain challenges to hamper the seekers. Later seasons with the new system, which was also designed with a home game in mind, was I think a way better designed game, the newer design, to make sure I'm clear about that. So yeah, that was neat and all, but the novelty of the first season is something. Yes, but I do like the gameplay of the later seasons better. And honestly, I think Switzerland was a really neat place for hide and seek. Some great hiding places. Adam's run from one station he could get to another station that he couldn't have gotten to by train alone, I think was a very clever play. And I hope that's still effectively allowed as long as services are regular enough to meet however the game defines a regular service. I still hope being able to run between stations like that is allowed, because I think that is cool, clever design without taking away from anything. There's been some debate in the jetlag fandom about if that's still allowed. I can understand wanting to not do that, but in some networks, I think that would be quite a nice thing if that could still be allowed. So let's move on to my number 8 pick, and this is Season 10 Australia, but the S is with a $sign. Very neat. You had Adam and Ben going to the Northern Territories and Alice Spring. Yeah, Alice Spring. I had to make sure I get my Australian cities correct. And just the how they framed it, with getting the desert power and all that, and had a desert meter that they kept up for the rest of at least the episode, and you get to see it slowly drain. It was a very fun season, some great moments. The guest in this season was Toby, which is actually her second appearance after her first appearance, which I'll be talking about later. Great. I haven't actually watched her channel, even though she's the one I was talking about earlier that fell in loved her on Jetlag, but haven't actually watched her own YouTube channel yet. Don't know why. I've checked out, I think, every other one that I liked on here. I don't know why I haven't checked out hers yet. Probably because I'm not really a math person. That's mostly what her channel is about, and I rather learn other things. Hey, that's just me. But still, great season. It was neat also seeing Australia, which we had seen, I believe, I think it was circumnavigation. Adam and Ben did stop there, but it was great seeing more of it. And there's just some unique stuff. It was nice seeing Toby return. Again, just a good, fun season with a very clever game mechanic where you do challenges in each state and the Northern Territory and the Australian Capital Territory as well. And the challenges earn you coins, but how much you earn is based on how much you bet. And then you have to claim each state by dropping coins in there, and it's based on gambling, for lack of a better term. But overall, it's this very unique design that really allowed some interesting claiming things where you could just put one if you didn't think they were going to go back there. and how Sam and Toby won. They were right on the border, so they were able to basically at the last minute deposit the last bit of coins they need to win, giving Adam and Ben a sense of false hope. Such a greatly entertaining. And that's actually something I want to mention. While they are playing these games, they're also playing them to be entertaining for us, the audience, making content. They don't script them at all. Otherwise, there's definitely some moments I think they would have definitely scripted differently because they end up being maybe as fun as they could have been. But the main thing is they do sometimes won't make the optimal gameplay strategy because they realize doing this would make a better video, better content for us to watch, which I think is very interesting. Where the players are not just the players, but also all the editors and producers of the show, and they do not all the editing. They do have other people who help them, but at least do the rough cut editing. And I think that's very interesting because many other games, things like Taskmaster, Game Changer, The Amazing Race, the contestants are not the same people who necessarily do the editing. Sometimes there might be a little bit of overlap, but with a lot of those other games, the contestants really don't have say in editing. Not Jedi. Ben and Adam are the main people who edit the show itself. And I think that's very interesting because it influences how they all play the game. It's just a very interesting thing. But let's move on to my number 7 pick, and this is season 13 and a half. Yeah, they did a half season. This was Hide and Seek New York City. It was a much shorter game compared to the normal Hide and Seeks. It was basically only 2 days, 2 runs, and they were joined by Amy, who is a writer for Half and is interesting, and also does help with doing some of the other stuff for Jetlag, the game, like writing challenges in some cases, especially challenges where they want to make sure that they don't know what is going on. So it was just neat to see somebody they've mentioned before, and just see her play with them, see New York City as well. So it was just a neat game. Not as exciting as some of the other games because of its shorter nature, but that's all right. But let's move on to the next season, season 16, my 6th favorite, which is Hide and Seek UK. I'm honestly surprised I put it so high because it was probably the most formulaic and most recent, actually, of all the Hide and Seek seasons. Adam, Ben, and Sam have really learned how to play the game. We have optimized it, and all that. So basically, things have become essentially repetitive. They need to put in, I think, some new challenges. Though they did create the time trap card, which I think was a very neat card. And it's a great game. I love seeing the UK. But again, some of the other seasons, they go to places I'm not as familiar with, so it's just more entertaining for me. I'm mostly familiar with the UK because I watch way too many videos about British railroads. I just do that. But yeah, so still a great fun season. Milton Keynes was neat. Just the probably most American British city. Some of the clever things with Coast Express are like this. They did some pretty clever stuff, but overall it has become a little bit formulaic. And that's why a later hide and seek is going to be a bit higher, or an early one actually. But let's move on to my top 5 now, with number 5, which happens to be season 8 Arctic Escape. So this is a US season. The guest was Michelle. She has a channel which she does a series called Challenge Accepted, which is actually really interesting. Basically doing a bunch of crazy stuff. But here, very neat. We got to see them use a Amtrak sleeper train once, which was neat. It was just a neat, fun season. You got some nice challenges. And how they design challenges mean that sometimes the challenges could actually really help encourage the travel element, which sometimes challenges like and sometimes they don't. But definitely some challenges are really nice. Like the challenges to get the first challenge to get out of Alaska that was needed to get out of Alaska was build a snowman. You're in a cold place with snow and ice. Perfect challenge. And some other challenges I encourage, like stand where Elvis Presley stood. That encouraged you to drive or go somehow to a place Elvis stood, which again was a very unique. I also love how the teams, because they weren't tracking each other, because sometimes they do track each other, sometimes it's only one or the other. Like in tag, the seekers, the chasers always know where the runner is, but the runner rarely knows where the seekers, where the chasers are. In hide and seek, it's flipped. The hider knows where the seekers are, but the seekers don't know where the hider is. And sometimes both teams know where each other are. But in Arctic Escape, neither team knew where the other was, so that created moments where they were trying to hide where they were from each other, so that way the other team couldn't guess each other's movement. I thought that was a very unique strategy, um, and just some unique moments in there. There was actually a scene where they had to go to a Goodwill to complete a challenge, and they had to give that stuff back to a different Goodwill. But they ended up going to one of those Goodwills that has those bins in that, and because they couldn't film inside, they had to animate it, which I thought was just a very unique way of respecting a place's request not to film in there, but also going to probably the worst possible Goodwill to go to. But at the same time, that also made them animating it, I think, more interesting. It's just something to observe. And like again, some very unique stuff, and maybe even some bad luck from some of the contestants. And honestly, I didn't mention it too much, but in I believe it was Tag Year 2, started seeing some of that Deutsche Bahn bad luck for Sam Mosey. Sam gets all the bad luck with Deutsche Bahn, which is a German rail network. I'll talk more about them in a later one. But anyhow, let's move on to my number 4 pick, which is Season 12, Hide and Seek Japan. So this was following Hide and Seek Switzerland. It was the first one with the new game design, which eventually led to the home game. And this was very neat because it was better than the Capture the Flag Japan, because you actually got to see other parts of Japan, more rural parts, more urban parts. It felt like I got to see more of Japan than Capture the Flag, and that's why I like it so much better. Also, this was also them really exploring doing hide and seek with a new system for the first time, so they hadn't really learned it like they did with Hide and Seek UK. Again, it's just a really fun season, some really great moments. Like the move card and Sam's use of it was so neat. Did it lead to him winning the game? No, not really. But just the power of that card, and how there's only one in the deck, and you have to discard your entire hand, so you can't save time bonuses, you can't save a really good curse that's good in the end game. It really is a very unique card and powerful card if you actually use it. Again, just so many unique stuff in there, and with love and Sam's hiding in Narita Airport, where he got found super quick in the end game that only lasted like 5 seconds because he was at the least used station in the airport, because he saw why not try it for the content, maybe not the best hiding place. But the idea is, he said they do, like I said, often record different takes of things to use, basically because they don't always know what the other person is doing. But this take was so perfect because Sam said the only people who use this are lost tourists and train nerds, basically. And which station do you think Adam and Ben went to? That station. They were effectively the lost tourists, and Sam was a train nerd in that situation. Though the accident didn't get off, so they went to the next stop and had to come back, which gave Sam a few extra minutes. But the fact that he recorded that, because he was talking about that small station, the least used one in the airport, and it just so happened to perfectly describe how he got caught, I think is perfect. He saw that, they're just going to go to the regular one, but ends up they were the lost tourists. And that just made it so interesting and fun, and made it a very unique hiding spot, even though it didn't have much of an end game. But let's move on to my number 3 pick, which is Season 5, Race to the End of the World. This is the New Zealand season, and the first one with Toby. And honestly, I think this style could be adapted to some other countries that don't necessarily have good public transit networks, or if they do, are more linear than some of the other places which have more hubs and that kind of stuff. Like, honestly, I think something like this in in Ontario and Quebec could be a really great way of including Canada. But the idea is it's a race. They do cars because, again, public transit, but you got to see many different parts of New Zealand on both the North and South Island, some very unique localized challenges, which again was very neat. The Okahau Express was like something they expected. It's going to take us like 5 minutes. Ends up taking, I believe, 45 plus minutes. Like, there's just so many stuff. Some stuff they could have researched better, like that one hot spring. They should have better researched that there is a potential deadly fungi in there, so they probably should have researched that a bit better. Some clever stuff about about destroying rings, so Adam and Ben get some booger rings, again pretty clever. And the introduction of the snack zone, which becomes a reoccurring segment. Honestly, the snack zone is so fun. I love how it's for when they did a couple times in the show, like the early version and then the late version until they set a snack zone. Then you got like 90 graphics with 90 music. It's just so fun. And I also love how in later seasons too, that snack zone progressively gets shorter and shorter to the point where the intro and outro is longer than the actual segment itself. And then it was Hide and Seek Japan that Sam tried to create the Choo 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 as a rival that never took off because Sam and because Adam and Ben were the ones editing it, so they threw in as a basically a little bit, but later on they just did the Snack Zone intro anyhow. Again, so fun. The Snack Zone is probably one of the best segments, and I love how it's just getting shorter and shorter inside, but they keep everything else the same about it. It's just a really great segment, and New Zealand is where that all started. Again, and some no, and also for Adam and Ben missing the ferry to go from the North Island to the South Island, and how much time they lost, but how because of some bad luck for Sam and Toby, and then just clever stuff near the end of the boat that they were so close to catching up, but just failed because they failed a challenge that could only be attempted once. I mean, it is just such. It's probably one of the best designed seasons from a gameplay perspective, in my opinion. Maybe not the funnest season, and it's definitely not my favorite for reasons I'll get to later, but it's definitely probably one of the best designed games. I say because of how localized it really incorporates that travel aspect of the game. And I kind of want more very localized games like this, where they design a board for the where they're playing and challenges based off of locations. Again, it's nice when you get challenges that encourage you to travel to places that could vary from place to place, but this is something I really like. But now let's talk about my honorable mention, and that's being half as interesting as Crime Spree, the pilot season for Jetlag the Game. I've never watched Crime Spree, that's why it's an honorable mention. But it's because of Crime Spree that they have rest periods. Because they did not have rest periods in Crime Spree, and that was not good for them at all. Yeah, it was not good for them. They actually have improved their like in season 1 Connect 4, the rest periods were more just make sure you check into your hotel room and get some sleep. While later on they're like, you know what, the rest periods are total rest. You must eat, you must sleep, you must not talk about the game. You must just not do anything game related. Which I think is a very good thing for their mental health, for their physical health, because they've mentioned multiple times. In fact, the guest for the next season I'll be talking about said that he understands why they don't run anywhere all the time, and how tiring it actually is after once he was on there. So yeah, just a very neat stuff that they learned from that, and other things that you see approving. But Crime Spree honorable mention because I haven't seen it, so I can't talk about it. But let's go on to my number 2 pick. There's only 2 seasons left, so if you have a guess, you have a guess. Put your guesses in the comment section down below. Any guesses? Okay, I'll tell you. Season 13, Shaken Showdown with Tom Scott. Tom Scott, he's probably one of the GOAT of all of YouTube, especially on the educational side. He did interesting places. Like, he's done so many great things. He's doing the podcast known as Lateral now, which is a very fun podcast. I love it when I know what it is. I honestly love it. Actually, I probably should have also thrown in the honorable mention the small game of basically hide and seek that they played with Tom Scott on his channel, Tom Scott Plus, which was just a thing that they did, and then they went on his Lateral podcast. This was well before this. But also too, Tom Scott, he was a fan of Jetlag before they asked him on. I think Toby also was as well. But Tom definitely was, and he talked about basically, and they've talked about that a little bit, and how mentioned that when they asked him, he basically said yes instantly, but he did throw the caveat that we gotta make sure schedules align again. But also too, Schengen Showdown is similar to Bad for America, where they're claiming countries in the Schengen area, and they start in the UK, which is not part of Schengen or the EU anymore for that matter. But regardless, it's similar to that. It's the country claiming game, which is also a really good game. But also they had very fun challenges. In fact, Amy designed every challenge in this game. Adam, Ben, Sam, Tom, none of them were aware of what any of the challenges were, and the challenges were all localized to each country. Denmark built a Lego set, but blindfolded. Germany, in a German region, eat that region's known food. Like, again, so many unique. Main mention of the florist shops that are common in the Netherlands. So not all of them were super localized, but they were more localized than some of the other country claiming or region claiming games. And honestly, too, I also loved how when Sam and Tom flew into Louisiana, the airport that they flew into, the building was like an old school terminal, which it takes on much more of a train station look appearance than what we see in modern airports, which I think is neat. And again, this was another one where they could track where they all were, but again, they made some good use of making it look like they were going to one place but not the other, and some of the challenges in that. In fact, like the Sweden challenge was go to an IKEA and find a jungle start. I think I'm probably butchering it, and Ben and Adam actually bought it, but Sam and Tom tried it first, but IKEA was closed, so they couldn't do the challenge, and all that. And so that was neat. And also, I recently went to IKEA and I took a picture of one because I had to. I just had to. Didn't get one though, but I still had to take a picture. And also, like the idea that they could fail a challenge, but the other team doesn't know why they failed, so that means maybe you could go and try to steer the country out from under them, which Sam and Tom did fail 3 challenges, and all 3 of those failed challenges were attempted by Ben and Adam, but one of them neither team were able to complete. So but Adam and Ben got closer and might have lucked in if they didn't run out of time, which I think is just crazy. Again, so many fun things about this season. And honestly, I think a big part of what made it so fun was having Tom Scott, who was Adam is known in the Jedi community of all the competitors to probably be the most competitive of all of them. No, it's actually Tom Scott. He was way more competitive, and because he was a fan of the show, he thought about Jedi in a way that Sam, Adam, and Ben never thought about, which brings another aspect to the game. It's just a really overall fun game. But there's one season I haven't talked about yet, and that's my number 1 pick. You can probably guess it. That is season 1. That's season 1. I've been going for almost 40 minutes now. You can see I'm getting tired. But season 15, Tag You're It All-Stars. So this one splits up Adam and Ben. I know, the only time they did that before was in Hide and Seek NYC, where they brought Amy in, and she was paired up with Adam, and Sam was paired up with Ben. But all 3 of them worked with Amy before, so it's not quite the same-ish. But yeah, so Toby, Brian, and Michelle, 3 contestants return. And that's why it was called All Stars. And those are probably the 3 most popular of all the contestants, of all the guests, except for Tom Scott, I would say. But Tom Scott was after the season, so he couldn't have been in All Stars. And Sam and Toby were paired up again. Adam was paired up with Michelle, and I left Brian and Ben together. And honestly, this is also the first game where any of the teams reach the end location. Adam and Michelle reached the win location in Switzerland, and so the rest of the game is a race for who's going to be in second. And Adam and Michelle get split out into the other teams, so they're just not doing nothing. And this is where Deutsche Bahn, probably the meme, really comes from the Jedi community. Now, as I understand, there are Germans who complain about the reliability of Deutsche Bahn, especially more with the long distance services. I don't know for sure, but I do know one thing. Germans are known for efficiency. Deutsche Bahn is made fun of whenever it's not efficient. And Sam gets all the bad luck on Deutsche Bahn, and this has happened more than once to him, where a delayed train hurts him more than any of the other contestants. And man, twice in this game, Sam and Toby, with Michelle, because this was in the run for second place, almost caught the runners, except for Deutsche Bahn delays twice saved them. And the last Jedi was so bad, there was no way of ever catching them again. So again, it's a meme. I'm sure it doesn't happen as often as people make fun of, but the fact that it happens at all and Germans being stereotyped as being efficient makes the meme funny. And the Jedi community makes it extra funny because Sam gets affected by it seemingly more than any of the other contestants. It's also more fun to make fun of a German train for being late than a French train or Italian train because they don't have that country stereotype of being efficient about things. You gotta factor in other things. Things are not. You gotta factor in context and all that. But again, there's some fun stuff. Sam and Toby in the first run, and only one actually. Each team only got one run because of again just some good luck and some bad luck. But because of just how things, because of a challenge or something, they got stuck in a place. But the other two teams were like, well, where are they going? So they just stayed in Paris for a while the other team was in a smaller town in France. And they just racked up coins. It's like, also doing all this, do you know what Ben and Brian do? They go to the movies. I am not joking. They go to see a film while they are waiting doing all this. It's just so crazy. Like, but the other two teams are actually playing the game. They go on a trip. It's just hilarious. And again, and like Michelle and Adam in their winning run, they actually had the course where they couldn't use their phones. Good thing they were on the Swiss network, which is pretty reliable, and had a physical map on board the train they could consult. Again, just some good luck that happened for them, some bad luck for Sam. That's ultimately what happened overall. And honestly, is just the funnest season overall. I think having increased number of character dynamics really helped. Now, back in Capture the Flag Japan, they did have having more than, for lack of a better term, two narratives going on. They did struggle a little bit more with editing. I think they can do up to three, but it's I think when they have four or more for that teams they have to follow is I think where you probably do three's fine, but four generally isn't based off of Capture the Flag Japan. But overall, I love Jedi. It's a very fun show. I love watching it. There's moments in here I didn't talk about, such as Tag Year 2, I believe, where Ben hid in a photo booth, which I think was just so clever. And there was another tag game where they just transfer at the right time where they didn't where the chasers didn't find the runner. Again, there's just so many great moments I haven't talked about. Great places they've gone to and all that. There's just so many great and fun moments. I just can't talk about them all. But it's a fun show. Watch it if you haven't already. I've spoiled a lot for it. The next season, I don't know when it's coming out yet. I haven't dropped the trailer yet. But it's going to be in Taiwan, so that's going to be very interesting. I wonder what game it's going to be. So we just gotta wait and see. I'll try to actually talk about that after the season airs. I'm probably not going to talk about each individual episode, but I'll probably try to continue to give you thoughts and give you guys my thoughts and let you know where I think it fits into all these rankings. If nothing else, this means I'll be always posting something on my Extras YouTube channel. But that's all I have. Let me know your thoughts on Jetlag. This has been a long video, but hey, Jetlag, there's a lot to talk about because I haven't been talking about it on my YouTube channel yet. Also too, if you want to check out my main channel for sci-fi stuff, mostly Star Wars, go check that out. It's called The Jedi Ranger. Or if you want to check out my reviews of classic TV shows, go check out that channel. It's called John Berry 555's Classic TV Retro Reviews. Bit of a mouthful. I'll probably try to simplify it someday, but that day is not yet today. But anyhow, I hope to see you in one of those places or in my next video on this channel. Bye!